What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in this video, we're talking about Absolute Batman issue number 1. That's right, the very first hotly anticipated issue of this new series is out, written by Scott Snyder, and what was the artwork done by? Who was Nick Dragata, Frank Martin that worked on it. Well, we'll get to the credits at the very end of the page. But yes, this is the Absolute Universe. This was teased during the beginning of DC All In. It's kind of the inverse of the DC Universe in a way. Like, this is a much more angsty, edgy universe. Some characters are changed around substantially from it. Like, this is an image universe built in Darkseid's image. Things are a lot more violent, way more brutal. Like, this is a very violent Batman that we get in this thing. And even I was kind of surprised. Like, let's see how far they're going to go. He doesn't quite kill, but he gets pretty damn close to it. Like, he is not holding back in a lot of ways. Like, it's kind of like the most brutal version of Batman you can get without necessarily crossing the line. But I mean, if Batman has to cut somebody's limbs off, not to the point of, like, killing them, but like, putting them in severe harm, he will do it, like, which he does in this thing. But yeah, even then, like, he's got a new origin story. A lot of the Bruce Wayne is brought up very differently in this universe. He's not somebody born with, like, riches. Like, he's kind of a poor Batman, if that makes sense. Like, he doesn't have the Wayne's millions. Thomas Wayne in this instance isn't, and Martha Wayne aren't killed in Crime Alley. Thomas Wayne is a teacher who dies protecting Bruce and his fellow students. So Martha Wayne is alive. So, like, she's there. This is a very, like, angry Batman that we see in this thing. So we also get to see a different take on Alfred. So he's not the butler in here. He's a mercenary. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, the Billy Wintergreen stuff with Deathstroke, but, like, Alfred's some sort of mercenary assassin type character. So he doesn't really know Bruce Wayne. He doesn't have that kindness that you'd expect from Alfred. Like, if everything here does not, like, it's really just kind of Alfred in name only. I mean, but then again, Alfred did have some spy background and stuff too. But, like, here he's just a little bit extra angsty. He still has his daughter Julia, who doesn't really want anything to do with him. He's been brought in to kill, like, this gang that's going and murdering all sorts of different people in very violent, very brutal ways. And so he's on his mission there. Bruce is also there training at Croc's gym. That's right, Waylon Jones, Killer Croc, is in this issue as well with Bruce. And, like, he's a friend. Like I said, a lot of Batman's typical rogues gallery are, like, some of his childhood friends. So things are kind of switched up a little bit in that regards. And like I said, it all kind of ties itself together pretty well in a really interesting way. And then, of course, you have, like, Black Mask, who's, like, the main villain right here. And you have all these other people with these, like, animal, like, faces, cutting off people's faces and wearing them and using them as trophies. It's all really messed up. And then Jim Gordon, of course, is the mayor in this issue, and Barbara Gordon, who they race swapped in this thing, but Jim doesn't look race swapped, so however that's going to work. I think she's probably just mixed race. But yeah, so she's there, and Jim is there. He's the mayor. People were kind of frustrated with him, but they're like, we liked Mayor Hill better, even though he was corrupt and all that too. But then this gang kind of comes in, ready to unleash hell amongst everyone, and then Batman makes his grand entrance, and this is a jacked, super steroided, roided up Batman. Like, this is like Frank Miller on steroids. And it does, like, he's way more brutal, way more violent than I was expecting. I mean, there's one part where he cuts some dude's hand off, like, literally just chops it clean off, and he's just like, stay out of my way. It's so excessive that it becomes kind of funny, but also kind of awesome at the same time. Like, he's just like, oh, he literally cuts a man's hand off, and he's just like, I hear they can reattach them sometimes. There's a hospital 3 blocks south of here. Or is it east? I can't seem to remember all of a sudden. Like, that was such a badass, awesome line that but it was so ridiculous that I kind of loved it too. And of course, like I said, Alfred's brought in to maybe try and, like, wipe him out, but we learn a bit more about this Bruce Wayne. About how he's taken all sorts of different jobs. He's a working man, so he doesn't come from Wayne Enterprises background. Like, he had to kind of do this, like, kind of rags, not necessarily like a rich man, but he has studied the city. He's taken all sorts of different jobs, learning its infrastructure, learning everything he can about it. But again, it's all tied together pretty well. And the stuff with Alfred Thomas Wayne at the zoo, where he's protecting his students to save their lives. So there is the tragedy of his past. Like, this is a Bruce that's been arrested, but he's not, like, the rich man Bruce Wayne. Like I said, he doesn't come from, like, a family of, like, privilege and wealth. So he had to kind of do this stuff on his own. So, and again, I came into this book not expecting really all that much. I wasn't too mega hyped about it, but in all seriousness, I thought this is a really good first issue of this series. And of course, having Martha there makes things a little bit different. Like, this is a Bruce in his early 20s, and Alfred's kind of after him at one point, but he almost admires him in his hyper-focused nature, and he thinks he's going to get the upper hand on him, but, Bruce manages to kind of outwit him and kind of leave him unconscious, but he's like, okay, I kind of admire this guy a little bit. So we'll see if Alfred and him become allies at some point. But I don't know. Like I said, this is a very different universe, very different Batman. And then at the very end of the issue, we get the tease of Joker, who, at the very end, but he's not the same type of Joker. They call him the Joker because he doesn't laugh at anything ever. So it's kind of the inverse of all that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, the artwork in this issue is really top notch. I know some people were complaining about the logo for Absolute Batman, which they just kept making bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which did kind of, like I said, make me laugh a little bit. This is this is such an overly excessively sized Batman, but it is kind of awesome too. Like I said, it's not quite the Batman we get in main universe. He's definitely very different. He still doesn't really kill. He's definitely more roided up, to ridiculous amounts. I want to know his extreme workout routine. He is a big hulking monster. And so look at him. Look at how excessive this Batman is in this first, just on the cover alone. It's so kind of over the top ridiculous that I kind of find it awesome too. It feels it's almost like if you took 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger, John Matrix Commando, and just made him Batman, aside from, being from a different country, but just that one-man army wrecking crew, tough son of a bitch. So I thought this was a pretty awesome first issue. It was way better than I expected it to be. And, Scott Snyder's a really good writer, but he hasn't really written anything in a while that I've really loved. I wasn't a fan of Dark Knight's Metal, but, his Batman stuff was really good. I mean, Scott Snyder's most known really for writing Batman, but this new take on it, it went in some interesting directions I wasn't really expecting it to kind of go. So I'm actually really looking forward to seeing issue 2. I may have to check out some of these other Absolute titles because I thought this one was a really strong first issue. In fact, I've kind of enjoyed this a lot more than the main Batman book and the main Prime Earth that we've been getting as of late. So I know, like I said, very different. You have to kind of go into this issue knowing that. But for something like I said, if you're going to do Elseworlds and be wacky and ridiculous, just go very different. Give me kind of something new and kind of interesting. And they actually do something unique and interesting with the Batman character. How is this new origin going to play it? Is it going to be the crime? I think no, that comes in it's his dad who just gives his life to kind of protect him, and his mom is still alive. Okay, that changes things quite a bit. What about Bruce Wayne? Well, he's not born into wealth this time. He's born kind of a lower class, middle class, something along the lines of that. So, okay, that changes him a little bit too. And he's kind of having everyday working jobs. He doesn't have all this money to fall back on. See, this is an interesting story to take Batman without all his billions of dollars, and kind of makes it interesting. Something that the main universe has tried to do by taking away all his gadgets, but it just felt kind of less cool. This one found a way to do it in a way that I actually kind of like. So I'm curious to see if we'll learn more about this version of Batman, how are his connections to some of the other characters and all that. Is he just going to be kind of on his own? Will we ever see a Robin in this series? I don't exactly know. Will characters like Damian even exist in this universe? I'd assume probably not. This is a younger Batman. He's 24. Maybe he's met Ra's al Ghul, or maybe he's met Talia and he has a kid or something along the lines of that. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of new possibilities with this take on the character that I really hope is kind of interesting and worth exploring. So, yeah, like I said, you have to kind of get used to it. Some of the characters do feel like characters, and they're really kind of a name only in a way. Alfred, like I said, so brutal. It doesn't really have that kind heart that I'm so used to Alfred having. But again, this is a completely different Earth. If you're going to do different Elseworld storyline, at least do something kind of unique and interesting with it. And I think this one did a pretty good job with it. So, and I like the artwork as well. I just love how overly excessive everything is with Batman, with his brutality and everything there too. That moment where he chopped the man's hand off and he's like, oh, I heard they can reattach it. There's a hospital maybe down the street. I don't know if it's this way or that way. That's such a savage line. And it feels like something out of a 1980s action movie. Like I said, there's something like Arnold Schwarzenegger would say. And I'm a sucker for those types of movies. I love over-the-top 80s one-man action movie kind of stuff, and a lot of that's in there. But again, there's some interesting stuff too with Bruce's new origin, the new takes on some of the characters, and it's a really exciting first issue. I'm completely shocked how much I enjoyed absolute Batman number 1. For going into this thing having absolutely no expectations, not really having any hype, or like, man, I don't know about this thing, to coming away really liking it as much as I do, like I said, that's an absolute win. That's a freaking miracle. So yeah, definitely recommend absolute Batman number 1. I think this is a really good, solid first issue. You can't expect the Prime Earth Batman. This is a very different take, but for this very different take on the character, I still really liked it. And I'm excited to see what Snyder that does next. Like, I really am. So hopefully, like, he continues to deliver some exciting stuff. And yeah, good stuff. Really, really good first issue. So anyways, what did you think of Absolute Batman issue number 1? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Post your comments down below. Be sure to share this video with your friends. Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, the bell for notifications, all of that fun stuff going on. I got one more DC comic book review for this today. I'm gonna try and get all 3 of them like posted like back to back to back, and then we'll be pretty good from there. So look forward to all that stuff. All right, peace out, everyone.